starting East versus West with my boy Eddie. Gonna get down to a little business. This is a little rap that I made it off the spot. Here we go. What you got?
Me?
Boom.
I don't got anything, bro.
East versus West rap. Because, you know, it's your dose of both coasts. I'm your host, Anthony.
And I'm your host, Eddie. I think Sammy's the rhymer because he came up with the dose of both coasts.
Sammy's just like the spiritual fan, the number one fan of East versus West, the supporter of it. Today on the show, we're going to talk about Not Scary Farm 2019 versus Busch Gardens 2019. What is it called? Howl-O-Scream?
Yeah, Howl-O-Scream at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, to be specific.
Oh. Basically, these are two theme parks that are very similar as far as the event goes, and that's kind of like the Knott's of the East Coast. And if you're from in that area of Busch Gardens, then you would say that this was basically the Knott's is basically the Busch Gardens of the West Coast. The world's I think Knott's considered the world's first theme park. I don't know how that. I believe so. I don't know.
I'm not sure, but I know that they were like one of the first ones
for haunt
to create a haunt event. Yeah.
They've been going for almost 50 years. And yeah, we got a lot of things that return this year. I'll skim through my returning mazes, which was the Depths, Paranormal Inc., Dark Entity, Special Ops Infected, Dark Ride, Shadowlands, and Pumpkin Eater. But with Special Ops Infected and Shadowlands, it was its final year, which was kind of a bummer for me for Special Ops because I did dig Special Ops. It was a interactive zombie maze where you actually got a laser gun and got to kind of shoot the zombies, and you were on a mission to kind of stop this outbreak in a modern Calico city, which was really cool.
So interactive.
Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it a lot. Shadowlands, final year, the Suicide Forest in Japan, the Legend of the Samurai. It was a very interesting maze, and it will be missed, but I can't wait to see what replaces it. And of course, our two new mazes that we got in 2019 was Waxworks and Origins: The Curse of Calico. Waxworks was the story of a kind of a mad kind of think of the movie House of Wax, if you've ever seen that horror movie. Basically a guy who turns like people and stuff into different creations of wax figures and stuff, or goes just above and beyond to make different wax creatures and figures, which is a really cool concept in my opinion. I mean, you got to go through this wax museum was already all kind of going down in fire and flames and stuff, and you got to go through this kind of run down, burnt down wax museum, and you got to see like different exhibits from like the Hall of Presidents to like a horror section. It was really cool to see that, and then you got to go behind the scenes of how everything was made, and you got to see people getting tortured, and it was really cool.
That's awesome.
And then the Origins Curse of Calico, if you guys aren't familiar, of course, with Not Scary Farm, for the last 40 plus years at Knott's, the overall kind of icon and theming of Not Scary Farm has always been the witch. So this year we actually got a backstory on how the witch became the witch, and how Ghost Town streets became Ghost Town streets, like how they all got cursed and how they all became monsters and stuff, which was really cool. I think this was probably the maze that took it for me this year, especially going through kind of like the very beginning in this maze where you actually see the trial of Sarah Marshall, and when they try to hang her, of course, that's when she snaps and curses the town of Calico. And as you're walking through that maze, you're seeing the curse take effect to different portions of the maze. I mean, they have a lot of the iconic set pieces from Calico, the town itself, which of course they have like the bank, the saloon, just a bunch of different of the major buildings in there. And you got to see Calico slowly just turn into just this scary monster town, which was really cool. And you got to see a lot of the iconic monsters. There's a lot of Easter eggs referencing a lot of the other scare zones, a lot of iconic characters. And I think this maze was just great. Especially what was very scary about this maze is at the very end, they actually had this giant, like, life-size, like I think it was about the size of me, a giant just 6-foot hand just come out off to the side like it's going to grab you. and at points like I would have to stop because it would come out to the point where it was blocking the path to go, and it would go back in, and I would immediately just hurry up and try to get out because I didn't want that thing touching me.
Nice.
So that was really cool. And as far as scare zones went this year, we had Ghost Town Streets, Carnival, Forsaken Lake, and the Hollow, with a dance party going on in Fiesta Village. Shows, we had The Conjurers, which was a magic comedy show, Puppet Up, which was a an improv show based around puppets, and then we had the final year of The Hanging, which you wouldn't find out until you actually went to the event and watched the show. So that was a big shocker to everyone, because The Hanging's been around for like since almost the start of Not Scary Farm. So it was a big shocker, but that was basically the pretty much breakdown of my event. What about yours?
Well, before we transfer over into mine, seems like the event, this would be for me like a must do if I was in town around that time of year, because that wax house and the what's it called, the like Suicide Forest, those are two, and I can't help but think what an original like that would be like at a larger event like Halloween Horror Nights. But
right,
I would love to see them in person. And sometimes at these smaller events, it's actually better because they get by being a little less PC than some of the events that get a little bit more notoriety.
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, especially like other originals like Special Ops Infected. What they did with that maze in general, I mean, to give you a laser gun to just run around and shoot zombies. It's a path obviously, but to give you this mission and to run around and shoot zombies was just a great idea. And being that it was its final year this past year, I am curious to see if they're gonna, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later on in this video, but I want to see if they're gonna bring back that technology for 2020 season, or if they're gonna give it a break and take it out to another Cedar Fair park, or I don't know, because I know they spent a lot of money actually designing these guns, and they're trying to get their money's worth out of it big time. With Shadowlands, I mean, yeah, the concept does sound really cool, but there was nights that we'd go in that maze where it would be not packed at all, and I mean, they gave a good performance, but it was an okay maze. It was decent. Dark Ride this year actually had a few changes to 2 rooms. They added a new security room, which was really cool, which was also very interactive too. There was actually a couple buttons you can press that did some things throughout the maze. And then they added a gift shop at the end, because it was supposed to be like a dark carnival ride. And of course, usually at the end of most rides at theme parks, they have a gift shop at the end, which was just a fun little touch. Pumpkin Eater, a returning maze. It was another okay maze. I mean, I anticipate that being one of the mazes that's gonna be on its final year this year probably. Dark Entities, though, however, this is an alien-based maze, which is really cool. Basically, think of Alien meets The Thing. It's kind of like one of those where you board a spaceship, and as you're going through, Alien just escaped one of the pods, and as you're going throughout this maze, you see the aliens on the walls, and you see like the aliens infecting and killing people, and it's just a great concept. I think that was the maze every time that we went through it that scared the hell out of me every time, just because like the way it looked.
And is Not Scary a separately ticketed event as Not Scary Farm?
Yeah, correct. That is, so you have to buy a separate ticket. However, if you do have an annual pass, you do get discounted ticket prices as well. And they do offer, if you're like a diehard fan of the event, like how me and Sammy were last year, they do offer an annual pass, which I think is way more worth it to buy the annual pass rather than a one-day ticket if you live in the SoCal area, because with the annual pass, it's only $80, I believe. Or we paid like $80 or $90, and then to add parking was another $75. But think about it this way. I mean, you go one night, you go like on a Saturday or something, it costs already like $60-$70 just to go to the event. And then parking itself is anywhere from $23 to $25. So you're getting your money's worth with the parking once you go 3 times, and you get your money's worth with the annual pass just going twice. So it's like, me and Sammy, we went almost every weekend to at least 2 or 3 times a weekend when it was going on. And I mean, we would just go some nights just to sit down and watch our friends in Ghost Town, because we've already went through everything, and we've already seen everything, so it was just cool to just go hang out, especially with all the other diehard fans who would go and sit and watch the event, which was really cool. But I mean, I think if you really are a fan of haunts and you really, not Scary Farm, especially because now we know a lot of our friends that work there, it's just fun to. All right, here we go. Avoid
minor technical difficulties.
Yep, Eddie's app crashed. Sucks. Anyway, we were talking about the Knott's Scary Farm annual pass system, which is a very good system in my opinion. But basically, to shorten it up, it is worth the money, especially if you're going to go multiple nights. And I highly suggest it. And if you are the person who drives, or if you're going to go with the friend who is driving, I would highly suggest either one of you or you, whatever, buy the parking pass with it, because it is worth the extra $75 that it is paid, because it's going to pay for itself. Trust me, parking itself is like anywhere from $23 to $25 at the event. So it is worth it just to get that parking pass. That's one thing you have to one less thing you have to worry about. Another thing to also take in mind too while you're there at Not Scary Farm, when you go opening night, buy the orange sipper cup. Well, it was orange this last year. I don't know what color it's going to be this year, but it's a 2020 cup. And basically with these cups, they're souvenir cups. So yeah, they're a little pricey, but however, with one of the cups that you buy, it is unlimited refills. So throughout the night, you can just keep refilling it to whatever soda or water that you want. And I think that was also a big money saver for me and Sammy as well, because me and him would constantly have drinks all night. And so, yeah. Not Scary Farm annual pass with the parking and the souvenir cup, highly worth it. So definitely, if you guys get the chance, do that. It is awesome.
Alrighty. Okay, so let's transition on over to the East Coast, which is our Busch Gardens Williamsburg Howl-O-Scream. From a perspective of what the differences are, one of the first differences is that this event is not a separately ticketed event. As the park turns dark, I think it's around like 5:30, it just transitions into Howl-O-Scream. And they have like a ceremony that goes down, and some kind of like bell notifications around the park that let people know that if you're still in here with your little ones and don't want to be in here, now is the time to start transitioning towards the entrance. But they don't kick everybody out and start over. So the same ticket that you buy for the daytime is the same ticket that transitions you into Howl-O-Scream. If you're an annual pass holder, you get access to the event all year round, and basically any of the specially ticketed events. There are some that are not like Howl-O-Scream. They are separately ticketed events, but this particular one is the same thing as your daytime ticket. When it comes down to it, this year we had 6 houses, and for the most part, they're all really returning houses. The event is something like Not Scary Farm, where if you're a fan of haunts and you're in the area, it's definitely a good opportunity to indulge, and it's not too expensive either. You could get some pretty good deals, just like Anthony was talking about, on some bundle tickets, parking, drink cups, and things of that nature. I won't get into too many details because it's basically the same thing that Anthony was talking about. But the houses that we're returning this year, we have one that's been around for a really long time, which is Cirque du Sinestro. Cirque du Sinestro, for kind of a brief synopsis, is a circus gone wrong. You get to explore the circus, walk through the circus tents. You have like an opening ceremony where when you walk into the first tent, you get kind of welcomed to the circus, and things get really sinister as they're giving you their opening speech, and they kind of push you out into the circus, out of the tent, kind of like go be a victim type of thing. It's a really cool one. I've done it so many times now that I know for the most part everything that's going to happen. They change it up a little bit each year, not really, but they'll add things here, tweak that and the other, update some of the like set design. but at the end of the day, it's the same one. But it is like an OG type of house, one that if you go, you got to go through, and it's pretty cool. Next, we have Demented Dimensions. Demented Dimensions is basically it's you go through this it's a portal that's basically opened up to our world, and these otherworldly creatures have come to wreak havoc. It originally was a house, which this is the one cool thing. This is the second year that this house has been at the event, and it came originally from the event down in Tampa, the Busch Gardens Tampa. They picked it up and brought it over to Williamsburg. So that was one thing that got me excited about it. When I went through it the first time, it was probably, if not the best, one of the better houses that year. But this year around, it kind of was just like revisiting the same exact thing. Dystopia. Dystopia is another house that was a newer house. I think it's only been with the event now 2 years. Dystopia is basically it's this facade of what a utopia would be like, and you see how people are being brainwashed into thinking that they live in a utopic world. You go into like this room where there's all these people that seem like they're happy, but they're actually wearing like a mask that's kind of like showing them an image of what they think they're living, but they don't know that they're actually just sitting in a room being tricked into this utopic feeling.
That's twisted.
Yeah, it's a twisted house. And this year, when I went to Howl-O-Scream, I went for the annual pass holder event, and I went by myself. And I walked through. I went like right when they opened up, and I walked through this house by myself. It wasn't like going to Halloween Horror Nights where you're going through this conga line. There literally was barely anybody ahead of me and barely anybody behind me. There was huge space, so I was walking through the whole entire thing solo. And I don't know if that's the reason why, but it ended up being a really scary walkthrough.
Yeah.
I walked through it twice during that trip, or during that visit. Once when I got there, and then once when I was leaving. And both times it was really creepy to walk through it by myself. The other houses, when I was walking through them, for the most part, I'd be walking in with like a group ahead of me that was pretty close. This one, I got to walk through without anybody, really just going through a haunted house by my damn self, which was pretty freaking creepy. I haven't done that in a really long time.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it was cool. And you go through like these different like not facades, but kind of I guess scenes in the house that present utopia in different ways. And then kind of you go through a utopic room, like where you see the people and what they think that they're seeing. And then you go through a room that's kind of like behind the scenes, where it's like all like, fenced off and things look dilapidated and things of that nature. And kind of you see kind of the evil people behind it.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a cool one. And then next we have Frostbite. This one is a basically kind of like a frozen Ice King. Reminds me of if you watch Game of Thrones, the Night King kind of approach. You got like all these like people that are like frozen, but they're entities that like walk around. And it's set in like a frosted castle is the best way to kind of describe it. Like the walls are like frozen brick, or bricks made out of ice. But this one in itself kind of, it came on the scene as like the new big thing about like 3 years ago.
Wow.
And wasn't received well that year. And I don't think it's ever been really hyped up after that, but they keep bringing it back. I guess it's just the nature of a lower budgeted event.
Yeah.
Right. And then after that, we have Lumberjack, which is also another one that's been around probably just as long as Cirque du Sinestro. This one's really cool. It's like a kind of like a backwoods family that lives like in a cabin, and you're walking through the backwoods. This one is an outdoor house, so you're exposed to the elements. You're walking through like dirt. There's like chainsaw axe murderers walking around and like chasing you and popping out of nowhere. Um, this is one of the ones though that whenever I've done a video going there, the actors that actually are working that house have always commented. And there's a guy named like Outhouse Joe or something like that, which basically what there is there's like a porta potty, like a wooden redneck porta potty in the middle of nowhere, and he's hiding in there, and he'll like open the door and like water will squirt like something pissed on you or shit on you.
Oh God.
And then he'll like come out and like say something and then like slam the door back shut. So that one's always been a cool one to go and like interact with the actors.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, we have the one that was supposed to be the new one this year. And I say new one because really it wasn't that new. This was the 20th year anniversary as well.
Okay.
Or no, it was the 21st year, actually. I'm lying. So this house was there for the 20th year anniversary, which was the prior year, 2018.
Yeah.
And it was called Vault 20 or Vault XX, whatever they wanted to call it, right? They changed it this year to Vault Overtaken. And the cool thing about this event and kind of one of the things that I really appreciate about this event is that they have an icon, and their most famous icon is actually coincidentally named Jack.
Nice.
Yeah, but Jack is a pumpkin head
Okay.
instead of a clown at this event. And Vault Overtaken was basically the Vault 20 coming back to the event, but this time it was overtaken by Jack, and he let all of the creatures out of their cages.
Nice.
Yeah, and basically it was a walk down memory lane because it's all the like characters and creatures from years past, and basically the way that they kind of marketed it was they were all dying to meet you again or dying to see you.
Nice.
Overall, a decent lineup. You know, when it comes to an event that has a lot of returning houses, it's always about kind of like just getting your feet wet and enjoying it for what it is, not critiquing it too much, because once again, if you're returning year to year, you're familiar with a lot of the things that you're going to experience. Then we have scare zones. For the scare zones, all the scare zones are exactly the same.
Yeah.
But when it comes to scare zones, I really do enjoy the scare zones at Howl-O-Scream. The actors are really engaging. They always are looking for people to interact with, and of course, if you're walking around with a gimbal and a camera, they like a little bit of attention, and I'm sure they always look on YouTube to find the video where they interacted with that particular
Definitely.
individual.
Yeah.
So when it comes to scare zones, we had 4, which was Axe Alley. Axe Alley kind of goes hand in hand with Lumberhack. It's just kind of like these like backwoods people with axes. And you see some saws and blades around as props. Fool's Court is basically you got some like court jesters and whatnot, but they look like wicked walking around. And you got the Garden of Soul, which is kind of like a Dia de los Muertos. It's set in the Italy area of the park, and you just got a bunch of people walking around looking like kind of like skeletons and whatnot, and they got a lot of like cool like glow in the dark colors. It's a really dark scare zone. And then last but not least, you got the first scare zone, which is actually right when you enter the park, which is Ripper's Row. It's a scare zone where you have like a headless horseman and a headless lady walking around. You got a bunch of people kind of like popping out of nowhere with like butcher's knives and things like that. But it's set in England, and it's based off of Jack the Ripper.
So, at your event, do you have is there stilt walkers?
Is there still walkers? No, there's not.
What about sliders? Do they have sliders there or no?
No, they don't have that either.
Oh wow. Okay. Because I know over here, I mean, sliding originated really in California. I mean, that's where it kind of really started. Actually, at Not Scary Farm, I've talked to a lot of the people that were there from the start of sliding, which was it was some really good conversations and stuff, which is really cool. Decade Brigade out here, which is a big sliding group, and SoCal is they're the ones that really kind of put it in the main picture and kind of popularized it more. than what it is. I mean, what it was, and um, now you're seeing a bunch of different groups coming out, and a lot of people do it more. But not Scary Farm, Queen Mary, and Six Flags Magic Mountain, to my knowledge, are the ones that I know in SoCal that includes sliding, which is a very cool scare in my opinion. I mean, if you get to see it firsthand, and if you ever do come out here, we're gonna have to go to Not Scary Farm just so I can show you it firsthand. But if you ever see it firsthand, it is just such a unique skill to these scare actors that they have in their arsenal, because a lot of the times, I mean, this is not an easy thing to do with sliding. I mean, if everybody thinks you can just throw on knee pads and get some slider shoes and clacker gloves and just go out there and do it. I mean, no, it takes a lot of cardio and really just, you have to know how to position yourself. You have to know when to stop. You have to know distancing and stuff. So I mean, it's a unique skill. But the reason why I bring that up is because, I mean, I would think like an event like this, I mean, especially sliders would be a unique thing to just throw in this event. Just have people go out there and start sliding. But
Yeah. No, they've never had it at this event, but I have seen sliding a few years back when I went to the Six Flags haunted event. There's Six Flags Maryland here, and I went there, and I remember seeing the sliding. They would pop out of nowhere, and it would make for some pretty good like jump scares outdoors. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it depends on the people who do it too, because I know some very talented sliders who get really creative with how they do it. And I mean, the knee pads too as well. I mean, not only are you can use for sliding, but you can use that for different scare tactics as well, which is fun. So, but so sounds like it was a solid event, and there was a couple mages that when you were telling me that I was just really into. It would be something that I would definitely want to check out, especially because I really want to. The long-term goal eventually down the line is to travel the world to see different haunts, especially out in like Germany and Scotland and all that. I've seen some like really badass haunts that are out there. So that would be like one of my goals. Shout out to my boy Kevin, actually, who showed me a lot of these different haunts in the kind of overseas area. But it would be fucking dope to go out there and just kind of see those haunts and see what they're like and stuff. But that's kind of the long-term goal, is eventually, if the channel does get any bigger, or should I say when the channel gets bigger.
Yeah, man. Don't sell yourself short.
When the channel gets bigger, I want to do a lot more traveling as far as going to different haunts and checking them out. That way I can have a legit busy haunt season. It would be cool, like every weekend in haunt season, I'm going somewhere, traveling somewhere different just to experience another haunt, which would be very fun. And that's going to start with Universal Studios Orlando, hopefully this year for the 30th. So
that'll be nice, man. You coming down with SoCal maybe?
I'm thinking about it. That way we all have kind of. Are you gonna be there that weekend?
So typically I go for opening weekend. So from what SoCal's saying, he's gonna be there the second weekend. So I don't think so. But I guess we'll see. Nothing has been set in stone yet, at least not on my end.
Yeah. You might have to change that just so you can meet up with us.
I know, but I think he said that he's doing it because he likes to go to the opening weekend, which is the same thing with me. Like the last 3 years, I've gone to opening weekend of Halloween Horror Nights. It started with that 1 year when I did media for Universal, and like ever since then, it's the event's a little bit different that first weekend. You know, so
yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. Who knows? Given the current state of things, the event might even open up a week later.
If they do a preview night on Thursday again this year at Horror Nights in Hollywood, there could be but Universal Orlando usually opens like a week earlier than Hollywood.
Yeah, I don't know what dates SoCal was looking at. But that's what he said in the group chat. Cause
I remember that, but I remember last year that was the deal. They opened like a week or two just before Hollywood. So if that's the case,
I think last year we opened up way before you guys. It was like 2 or 3 weeks before you guys.
Yeah, but, so if that's the case, I might be able to pull it off.
Yeah, this year we open up on the 10th, which is a Thursday. It's the second Thursday of September.
Okay, so if I go out, so you're gonna be there that whole weekend then, aren't you?
Yeah, I usually go Wednesday to Monday.
Okay. Yeah, I might head out if I do decide to go. I might try to go head out there Friday. I might leave Thursday night, get there Friday morning, sleep on the plane, and stay there for the weekend, leave Monday morning or Monday evening, whenever.
Yeah. To kind of like backtrack, so with your Not Scary Farm, I guess what would be your overall rating of the event last year? I guess let's do 1 to 10.
I'm gonna go honestly a 9.5 out of 10 because I had a lot of fun this last year, getting to meet a lot of people. And if anyone watched Character Appreciation Month, pretty much all of our guests, outside of a couple, were from Not Scary Farm. So we got to meet a lot of very talented scare actors from Ghost Town mostly. We had, I think, one in Carnival, one in Forsaken, and a couple in the Hollow. But Ghost Town was where we were hanging out. We've actually donned a nickname for Ghost Town since we hang out in a certain area, which is actually known as, they call it Kmart. And there was a bench on that little alleyway that we would hang out, so we were known as the Kmart bench warmers. But we decided to change it to the KSF bench warmers because we kind of bench warm all around Not Scary Farm. But I think it was just cool to interact with the monsters this year, especially since they started knowing who we were. And I'm excited to see what this coming year is going to look like, especially because now a lot of people know who we are. And since we hang out with them like on a regular basis, I mean, it's going to be fun to just see that interaction. It's going to be there, and I'm really looking forward to it. But overall, 9.5 out of 10, man. I mean, the mazes were solid. I mean, there was nights where, I mean, we would go and we would get into like maybe 2 or 3 mazes that we really wanted to go through. Pup It Up was hilarious. That we would try to see that at least once a night if we can. I think that's what's keeping that 0.5 from being a 10 out of 10 was the hanging. Being that I'm a huge fan of the hanging, and to see it was this last year kind of bummed me out because that's kind of half the reason I also go to Not Scary Farm, because the hanging show was pretty much like a Bill and Ted type parody show. And they're taking that away, which I don't know what they're going to replace that with. But I don't know. I mean, I other than that, the event was solid. I do miss it every day. I wish I can go back time and time again. I love the smell of the fog. I don't know. For some reason, and it might just be me, but certain, events have certain smells that when you go to that event, like, and you smell that smell, it's just like, you're at this event. Like, for some reason, it's like a home. You know what I mean? Like, Not Scary Farm for me mostly was fog because everywhere they had was fog. So every time I smelled the fog machine, I was just like, oh, fuck, I'm here. I'm home, And Horror Nights, it's always like the chainsaws because they use chainsaws.
Yep. Yeah, you smell like the gas.
Yeah.
No, but you also smell the fog.
Yeah.
And the Horror Nights fog has like a distinct smell as well. But okay. So a 9.5 out of 10 is a really good rating.
Yeah.
I can't say the same thing for my event. Not to say that it wasn't a great event. This year I went to it probably about 5 times, I think. And I always enjoy it because I'm an annual pass holder, so I get to go to the annual pass holder event, and that's always a cool way of experiencing the event. It's not as packed, not as busy, so you really get to go through everything and take your time. And like I was telling you, sometimes you get to actually walk through a whole entire haunted house all on your own because it's not as big of an event as Halloween Horror Nights is. Yeah. But if I had to give it a rating out of 10, I would probably give it like a solid 7. And okay. I think that's a really good rating.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, given the budget of the event, that's not much lower than what I would give like a Halloween Horror Nights.
Yeah.
I don't even think I'd give a Halloween Horror Nights a 9.5, to be honest with you. Just because I would be a little bit critical on the event just because I love it so much.
Yeah.
But a solid 7. Given that it's basically a copy of the event year by year. I think they do the best with what they got.
Yeah.
And as the events grow in popularity, they'll be able to change it up a little bit. And I think I could see that in the future of Busch Gardens, now that it's been past 20 years, changing things up a little bit. Yeah. I don't know about ever seeing like intellectual properties, but just a little bit more creative houses, as well as maybe a little bit more money into the set design would be cooler. And they only have 6 houses, and to be honest, I was able to get through the 6 houses pretty quick. So maybe adding a few more houses as well.
Yeah, I will say this though with Not Scary Farm, I think what really what really why I put it at like a 9.5 as well. Not only did we meet a lot of people, and the interactivity was just amazing, and learning the stories of these characters in Ghost Town was really fun to do, especially because we kind of knew one person going into the Ghost Town streets, and then after the event was over, I mean, we've gotten to learn so much of the backstory of these characters. And to this day, if you follow their actual Ghost Town accounts on Twitter or on Instagram, every now and then they'll jab at each other because there is storylines within Ghost Town that was happening that are with certain characters, which I thought was really cool. One of the most notable things, and it's on my if you guys will go to my channel and watch my Not Scary Farm compilation that I made, at the very end of that compilation there is the assassination, or not the assassination, but the death of the She-Wolf, which was a character that we know personally, very good friend of the channel. And with that death, it was really cool because the night prior to that, her running partner at Not Scary Farm was a girl who's also a girl that we know. Her name's Ruth. She plays the orphan at Not Scary Farm. Very good friend of ours, and her and my other friend were running partners together. So the night before that, it was on her last night, the orphan's last night. Actually, the She-Wolf went to go kill the orphan, which if you guys follow the lore, I mean, this is stuff you got to really talk to the characters about and figure out on your own. But if you follow the lore between the two, actually, She-Wolf, like prior to the curse, actually does kill the orphan, the little girl that she takes care of. So it was really cool to see that story come to life at the event, especially when it was Ruth's last night of the event, and they actually brought that to life at the very end of the night, where she came out of nowhere and just killed the orphan. On the following night, since it was the final weekend, they actually did something that was really cool, where they killed the She-Wolf. The Judas the Barber and a bunch of the townsfolk came together, and they held down the She-Wolf, kind of accused her of the crimes of what she did, and killed her right in front of everybody, which was really cool. So it's moments like that really bring this event to life. On top of that, with the mazes, much like other events, there is really no black walls at all. Like, they literally detail every room wall to wall, like corner to corner. Like, there's not one detail that is missed. That's what I really enjoy about this, is that these mazes are reused and they do keep coming back year after year, but I think I'd rather have an event that brings in like 2 or 3 every year. That way they had a bigger budget to actually put in. Like, if you go on YouTube after we're done recording this, and look up the Origins Curse of Calico maze, how detailed that maze is and how much special effects they used in that maze is beyond me. Like, I think it is because that they reuse the same properties. They have more money to actually accomplish a heavy special effects maze. Look up Waxworks too. I mean, it was just insane to go through these mazes and see the detail put into these mazes. So I think that's why the event is ranked very high for me. It's just because they put a lot of detail and time and effort into these mazes, and the fact that they do reuse them, I mean, it is just kind of insane. The amount of detail they put in, and the storylines that they have with characters in Ghost Town. And when you figure out more, I think that was a good opportunity when we did Character Appreciation Month, that we learned so much from every character that we had on, especially a lot of the heavy hitter characters, and to learn more of their backstories and who they are, taking that knowledge and applying it to the event this next year, it's going to be fun.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely going to check out some of these mazes. No black walls, that's crazy. I mean,
yeah, no.
I don't know.
I mean, I think with Waxworks there was a long transition black wall, but I mean, it was at the very end of the maze. It was an exit, and they were like blowing this air effect at you, which kind of it was a fun little scare. But I mean, for black walls, that's really it though. I mean, they really detail every little nook and cranny and corner of this damn mazes, which I love.
No black walls are over here on the East Coast.
I know. Well, at least at Hornites.
Black walls are like jump scares for you guys. It's like, not another one.
Black Walls, the Maze 2020 prediction for HHN called it.
Yeah, right. It's just going to be all black walls.
You're going to hear AC/DC's Back in Black throughout the entire maze.
The maze is going to be called Black Walls, music by Slash.
Music by Slash.
Actually.
I mean, Not Scary Farm. I think it was probably our favorite event this last year. Definitely, just because we had a good time, hands down.
Well, from there, transitioning into kind of a lot of conversation that we're hearing about Halloween Horror Nights is is it going to happen? This, that, and the other. I'm assuming Not Scary Farm, just like basically any other theme park or large, basically establishment in the U.S. right now, is closed down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we all know why. We don't need to get into that conversation too much. But as far as like them opening up, is there any inkling that might not be the case this year?
So I haven't heard anything on Not Scary Farm yet. I have heard that a lot of theme parks might start opening in June.
Yeah.
And that's also a very good sign for these events. Now, if you guys have been following theme park news lately, I mean, Universal has ordered permits on, I think, both coasts to continue construction on all their projects, so they can still be set into coming into on time. That also includes construction permits for Halloween Horror Nights. So, and I'm going to save this one for tomorrow, but there was a certain picture that actually went around for HHN Orlando, which we'll save for another episode, which is going to be a good episode. So tune in next week as well. So we do know construction is still happening, and John Murdy actually came out on Twitter and confirmed that construction was happening at HHN Hollywood, because I think a fan asked if the construction has started, and he said, "Oh yeah, I forgot, since the parks are closed, you guys haven't been able to take videos or anything of the construction that already has started." So it looks like HHN and everything is still going back on track. Now, I have heard some details that a lot of people, especially with theme parks, have been given permission to actually start taking temperatures and stuff to let people in the parks, just as an awareness. And I have also been reading that if they're going to reopen parks, face masks may be required, as they are right now. It is a law right now in the United States, or at least in the state of California right now it is. To go out with a mask just for prevention of passing the virus on. So if the events do come this year, and I'm talking all haunt events, here in SoCal we got Haunted Hayride, Queen Mary Dark Harbor, Not Scary Farm, Halloween Horror Nights, Six Flags. If these events do go on this year, I think ticketing will be very limited per night to avoid enormous crowds, especially with everything going on. I think we will have to be. They're gonna check temperatures, which will cause a very long line. And in my opinion, that's what I think. And I think we're gonna have to be wearing face masks throughout the event, which will be the first time in any haunt, like pretty much history, that they're actually gonna let you wear a mask of some sort at the event.
Hey, not true. Mickey's not so scary. The kids could dress up.
Oh, that's a given. Come on.
They could wear the whole entire Halloween costume. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about legit Halloween events that are freaking PG-13 or higher.
Okay. You got to be a little bit specific.
That's just what I've been hearing on the news, at least, as far as the theme park opening. So with the news, of course, of theme parks potentially opening in June, at least here in the state of California, and I believe that goes for Florida too, and pretty much everywhere with theme parks, really.
Yeah.
Depending on who it is, I guess that is also looking good for haunt season, because since the theme parks will be open leading into haunt season, that would be a good sign.
Yeah, and given that they've already they've lost a ton of money being closed for so long. The amount of revenue that they produce on a daily basis is ridiculous, and the haunt season, at least for like Universal Studios, is huge, and I'm sure it is for Not Scary Farm as well. Maybe not so much for Busch Gardens, because over here it gets really cold.
Yeah.
So the amount of people that actually go to the park during that time is a lot less. Even on a busy day for Busch Gardens Howl-O-Scream, it's not that busy like it would be at a Halloween Horror Nights, and I'm sure probably Not Scary Farm, the lines probably get pretty ridiculous as well.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, there'll be long lines, but just not as long. So I don't think it impacts them as much, or it's not as much of a revenue bringer for them. But parks like Universal Studios, Not Scary Farm, Hollywood, and Orlando, I'm sure if they're able to open, that event's going to happen. And what I can say about Busch Gardens is the fact that it's not a separately ticketed event. If they're open, the event's going to happen as well, because it just makes sense. They'll probably bring back exactly the same exact houses that they brought last year, just given the current circumstances, and being that they are missing out on revenue now. And that's not a huge revenue bringer, so they're not going to invest in making those houses better. They're just going to open them up the way that they were the previous year, so they could at least draw some people in.
Definitely.
To stay in the late night. So I think haunt season's well on its way. There is some rumors of construction out there. I know that I did see John Murdy did confirm that they are doing construction in Hollywood, and from what I hear through the grapevine in Orlando, I mean there's something circulating around which I'm not too sure about, but the people at Universal Studios, at least some of the insiders, have basically confirmed that construction in Orlando usually doesn't start up till like June anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And there has been no news of delays for the Halloween Horror Nights construction. So we're well ahead of the construction. It doesn't even start around this time of the year. So that's a good sign. And yeah, it looks like everybody's going to be opening or at least the projected date is June. Things seem to be getting better too. So I think we're going to be good, but it's just going to be a different experience, which in the case of the larger events, maybe a positive. Those conga lines, I don't think they help the scare at all. So being able to eliminate those conga lines for some people that are actually looking to get a little bit more of a thrill out of these events, that might be exactly what they get.
Definitely. Transitioning from that into, of course, more into the 2020 season, what are your hopes for the event at Howl-O-Scream this year, man? What do you want to see?
Really, my hopes at this point in time is that they are able to invest a little bit of money and maybe add a new house to the six house lineup and maybe make it a seventh house.
Yeah.
And something that is not recycling. So I want it to be a seventh house, because if it's a new sixth house, usually what ends up happening is they recycle items.
Yeah.
Right. So keep the current six houses and add a seventh house, which has all original new props that I haven't seen before. That's what I would like to see. And I think that's a reasonable expectation. Given circumstances, maybe it may not happen, but that's what I would like to see Busch Gardens do as far as like the next step in the progression of their event.
Definitely. I think over here at Not Scary Farms, since they're really transitioning to this whole storyline of origins and really wanting to tie everything in, looking like, especially with the Easter eggs given to us in Origins: The Curse of Calico, kind of referencing each scare zone and everything. I would really love to see, leading up to the 50th anniversary, the entire park become kind of one, to tie into a whole lore and story. Starting off with the mazes that left Shadowlands and Infected Special Ops. I have two things I would love to see for Infected Special Ops. Kind of the replacement for that. One of them would be, at least this would be also affecting another maze if they do bring it back. But the maze Dark Entities is an alien-based maze. I would love to see them take the special ops technology with the guns and everything and incorporate that into Dark Entities, so it can be like an alien kind of shooter game. If you guys played like Dead Space, or if you guys played like Alien Isolation, it'd be something like that, which would be really cool. I would really love to see that. And as far as the maze replacing Special Ops Infected goes, I would really love to see something on the line of werewolves. I'm a huge werewolf fan, and to kind of see hopefully a werewolf maze come to the event. I think it's been a while since we've had a werewolf maze at the event as well. So that'd be really cool, especially to kind of expand that lore of werewolves and stuff, which would be really fun. As far as what I think for Shadowlands goes, since it's in the Carnival area in back of Accelerator, I would love to see them do a Carnival kind of related maze, kind of maybe explaining the lore of Carnival and how it got started, and leading up to kind of the curse of Sarah Marshall and how that affected Carnival, which would be really cool. So I would love to see that. For mazes that I think might be leaving this year, which would probably be Paranormal Inc., Dark Entities, and Pumpkin Eater. I think I think these are going to be the last years for those mazes, especially Paranormal and Pumpkin Eater. I know Pumpkin Eater hasn't been getting the numbers it should be getting. It was always a really short line when we went, so that I could see that leaving next year and maybe kind of introducing something new to kind of relate more to the Hollow Scare Zone and maybe give that more of a backstory and tying it into that whole origin storyline. And Paranormal Inc., a very good maze as well. You're going through like a ghost show. And you're at this like a sane asylum, and you're investigating this asylum, and then as you're doing an investigation, all hell breaks loose, and then you go through the asylum and you start seeing all these different demons and ghosts and everything everywhere. Ironically, I don't know if you know, TLAV recently did a live stream with a guy named Forrest. He's actually one of the faces of that maze. He's actually in like a lot of the videos, and he was on a lot of the promotional art for that. He's in the beginning queue of that maze, which I find awesome. But Paranormal, I would love to see one or two things happen with that. If they're gonna get rid of Paranormal, I would love to see them bring that concept back, but a new episode where you're in a new location, or just a whole new original maze in general, which would be really cool. So those are kind of my thoughts and predictions for 2020. I see us 2 new mazes for sure we're getting in 2020, and maybe 3 on its last year probably. So
yeah.
Also, what's really cool, before we continue, what's really cool that they started doing this year for the farewell mazes is they started making these exclusive pins. I don't know if you can see that. That's for Shadowlands, and it has the dates it was in thing, and that one's for special ops. And there's the exclusive pins. They basically say 2014 to 2019 headshots only for special ops, and for Shadowlands it's 2016 to 2019. It says live by the sword, die by the sword, which was their of course little slogans for each of the mazes. They're called Knott's Scary Farm Legend pins, which they're on little gravestones that are really cool. So that's another thing too. I'm hoping that since with the more mazes shutting down and coming down, I can get more of those pins. I want to start collecting those. Those are really cool.
All right, those look cool as hell. So those pins are for when they're retired?
Yeah, so this was the first year that they started doing them, and they announced it at the Knott's Media event last year. So when the maze pretty much retires, they put their operation dates from when it started to when it ends, and then their little slogan on it, and then of course their logo as well, which is really cool. So a paranormal one would be cool, a dark entities one would be cool, and a pumpkin eater one would be really cool. So I can add more to my collection.
Nice. And one thing that I want to say real quick, kind of side noting, for those who are listening and those who have been following us the past couple of weeks, I do want to say thanks, because we have gotten, I was looking at both of our channels, probably the most amount of consistent views that we've gotten in a while. I know that this particular video isn't going to be like our last 2, because unfortunately there's no IPs, so there's no speculating that we could do. Speculating tends to be a little bit more interesting, a little bit more fun to do, but we can still have fun with some other ideas. So like we've said in the past couple videos, if you guys do have any ideas, make sure to comment down in the comments below and let us know. Where you going to
I will also say this though, my Not Scary Farm content and your Busch Gardens content actually do get a lot of good ratings on it too, because a lot of people like to do that. So I got my last Not Scary Farm speculation video is already like at 400 views. So
oh shoot, well maybe you know what? Funny enough, I think actually my Busch Gardens exclusive like videos, like I'm looking at last year when I went to Howl-O-Scream, it's one of my highest viewed videos actually. So
so
maybe this content does really well. I don't know. So we'll see. Hopefully you guys enjoy it just as much as our last 2 videos. But I saw how well we did between the 2 channels, and the amount of views that we got. I was pretty impressed. As far as the podcast goes, at least. Our podcast has been growing in popularity, and we are getting a lot more views than we did when we first started. What episode is this? 2020?
This is episode 19, and we got a special announcement after you're done for episode 20.
Yep. So episode 19. So 19 episodes in, and now we're showing a consistent viewer base of 100 plus, I could say easily. All of my podcast videos, East versus West, have done 100 plus, and a good amount of them have done well over 200. So I enjoy seeing that growth. So the people who are consistently following us, thank you. Those who are tuning in for the first time, we do a little bit of everything here, comparing events on both Coast, the only podcast where you get a dose of both coasts.
Dose of both coasts. So with that being said, before we log off for today, episode 20, it's our 20th episode, and we wanted to do something big for 20 episodes. I think we've only had Losh on the show so far, right? He was like the only guest.
One and only.
Losh TV has been on the show. So to do something special, we've been in a group chat the last like couple months that was actually started by our friends over at Fractured Compass, and it was an amazing group chat to bring all of us creators together just to talk about, news, events, planning trips. It's been really cool. I mean, even if we have some personal stuff we want to talk about, I mean, we're all there for each other, which has been an amazing experience to just kind of see all that. And next week, this is something that I've been wanting to do for some time, and we're finally going to do it. We're going to film it tomorrow, but it'll be out next week. And this is going to be a big collaboration among 5 channels, man. I think this is probably one of the biggest collaborations in our little group of, mini YouTubers that's ever happened, really.
Yeah.
So it's going to be me and Eddie, Knights of Horror and Eddie-tainment. And then we're also going to include SoCal Exploring, Losh TV, and Zombie Chris. And we're going to do an episode of East versus West. We're going to be talking about HHN and what we're thinking about, what's going on for the future of it. We're going to talk about some construction rumors that we've been seeing, and we're going to break all that down. I want to hear everyone's thoughts on the event. Also, shout out to our boys Losh TV and SoCal Exploring. They actually started a new series on SoCal Exploring, and we were giving them a lot of shit last weekend, but we love those channels to death. They're great channels. They produce amazing content.
Yeah.
And they started their own podcast. It's called Horror Nights Unscripted. Basically, it's like the same concept with East versus West, except they're just going to be focusing a lot on Horror Nights with Losh and SoCal Exploring, especially because with SoCal Exploring starting to transition to doing a lot of Orlando content as well to try to get that out there to get you guys prepared. Because I know he's going to be taking a big trip out to Orlando this year, so good for him. But definitely check out Horror Nights Unscripted as well. It's a very good series, and they do shout us out in the beginning, which was really nice of them to do. So I'm excited for this crossover. This is going to be a good one. This is going to be a fun one.
It'll be nice to bring them on, and I almost forgot to shout them out as well. The first episode was really good, and I went ahead and I told them, I said, hey, you guys have some chemistry, so something that you guys may want to consider. And we played around jokingly saying like, hey, you guys can't take the name though. We already got that.
Yeah.
Because it is a one East Coast and one West Coast host. So they got a similar approach to us, but I do think they're gonna be different because they are trying to do that unscripted type of approach. You and I, we tend to try to come up.
We have a layout. I wouldn't say we're scripted, but we do discuss what we're going to talk about, and we kind of improvise it from there. So
we try to have a format that we terribly divert off of mostly, and have some huge tangents in our conversation that kind of I always try to bring the conversation back in.
Yeah, definitely.
We have our unscripted nature, but these guys are truly going unscripted into each podcast. And their first podcast, I thought the chemistry was great. Their second podcast did great as well, and they were doing some interesting speculation and conversation around Halloween Horror Nights. So shout out to those guys. Thanks for shouting us out as well. We look forward to having them on the podcast, having this big collabo, big East versus West collabo, because we're going to have some additional West Coast and some additional East Coast supporters on this next episode, the 20th.
Hey, man, it's going to be a fun one, man. I've been looking forward to doing something, especially with Zombie Chris. I've collabed with Losh and SoCal this morning. It's always fun to collab with them, but I've never collabed with Zombie Chris. So this is going to be a fun one to get us all together in one little chat and talk Horror Nights, man. This is going to be very fun. So thank you guys, everyone, for watching. Before we also sign off, we have merchandise on our store. Link is in the bio. Our new East vs. West shirt is out, along with East vs. West stickers and hoodies, tank tops, women's t-shirts, long sleeve t-shirts. It's all there. Go check it out. You can go support the show if you guys want. I'm definitely going to be buying mine pretty soon, so that will be fun to have and wear and rock that everywhere. So go support the show by buying some East vs. West merch if you guys have the extra cash. But if not, a subscribe will always do for us, and a like and a comment down below to to hear what you guys thought about the episode. Be sure to subscribe to Edutainment as well. Producing content out in the East Coast as well, so definitely something you should do. But that is going to do it this week for East versus West. Your dose of both coasts. Of course, leave some comments below if you guys want to hear us talk about anything related to theme parks or a horror event or whatever. If as long as it's East versus Coast related, East versus West related, we will talk about it. So thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode, and we will see you guys next week.
Deuces.